Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new, hello and welcome. My name is Katie. This is my monthly reading wrap-up video and I'm going to have a lot to get through, so hopefully I'm not going to waffle on too much because I want to show you the books that have just fallen into a pile instead of the tower that they were in. So if you'd like to know my thoughts on the books that I read for the month of March 2023, then make sure you keep on watching. So, if you've been following my reading journey this month, I did the Unspeakathon reading challenge, which was kindly set up by the lovely Gryffindor Bookworm and Leanne Brooks. And it's been really fun, really adventurous. Obviously, I got to completing the 6 rooms, but I didn't have enough time to complete the challenges in the Unspeakable room because I had enough points to go into that room. So if they do this challenge next year, which I really hope they do, I will just have to be a bit more thoughtful with my books because some of them I think were quite lengthy, so maybe I chose the wrong size books. But I went on the prompts and did every prompt that I chose. So yeah, so I'm going to crack on because as I said, I've got lots and lots of books to talk about. So I'm actually going to go to the book that I read first, which was on my Kindle. If I can't always find the images on my Kindle, so I will put the images of the covers if they're on my Kindle here. And this one was called The Serpent and the Wings of the Night, and it's by Carissa Broadbent. She wrote Daughter of No Worlds, and I read that in January, I think. And I wasn't the biggest fan, so I was a bit hesitant going into this, but I'd heard it was quite good. It was quite a different kind of plot and concept, so once I read that I was quite intrigued. So yeah, just looking at my notes, my little note journal that I use for my reading. I enjoyed the story overall and it was a good pace. The other book she's written was quite slow and it was like really hard to keep me engaged, but this kept me engaged quite easily. I enjoyed the fact that it predominantly used vampires as the creature, like magical, mythical, whatever you want to call it, creature. Obviously, you know that I love my witchy books and things like that, but it was really nice to have a change and just focus on vampires and different types of vampires. And the main character, Araya, is a human, so she is surrounded by all these vampires, so she's kind of having to make sure she doesn't get killed and prove herself, like prove her worth kind of thing. So you're following her journey, and she goes into this like kind of trial thing, and whoever survives this trial gets a wish at the end. So she's kind of putting herself through these trials and tribulations to try and get through this to win this wish at the end from their goddess. There was enemies to lovers, and the character that she kind of potentially has a relationship with is called Rain. I think that's how you pronounce it. Rahin. And he sounded very, very nice from the way the author described him. He was kind of protective. See, he was not a nice vampire, but a good vampire to have in your kind of team. He sounded very, very nice looking as well. So I did like that, and it did leave on a cliffhanger as well. So I think there's a second book, but it won't be out for a little while, which is a bit sad. I always hate when they do this. I find a book and then I find out that the next book is not going to be out for a while, so it's a bit annoying, but at least I've read it and I did enjoy it, and I did give it 4.5 stars. So yeah, really, really enjoyed that. So the next book is my first book that I read for my reading challenge. It was my 5-star prediction, and it was The Cloisters by Katie Hayes. I finished this in 3 days. It's a fairly small book. I think it's about 300 pages, I think. And yeah, this was my 5-star prediction. Unfortunately, it wasn't a 5-star prediction for me, but I did read it. I did enjoy it overall. I loved the writing style. It was very dark atmospheric, gothic-y kind of vibe, which is where like kind of how the location is in the book. So she's got that spot on. I did enjoy the whole atmospheric, dark feel throughout the book. I could really imagine it in my mind how it looked and how dark and gothic and atmospheric it felt, because like it was like all like candle lights and things like that. So I did enjoy that. I did not like any of the characters. They were all so shady. So I think that's another reason why I didn't give it 5 stars, because I didn't like anyone. And normally I like at least one character in a book, but I thought I was going to like the main character, but again, she turned out to be a bit shady. So each character had something shady about them. So it was a bit like, who do you trust in the book? Obviously, the main part of the story is about them researching a tarot deck, like a really ancient tarot deck. But I do wish there was slightly more about the tarot cards in the book, because it pops up here and there in the story, like when they've found a card, for example, or something like that, or just different things like that. But there wasn't as much of the tarot aspect as I hoped it would have had. But overall, I did enjoy it. I did like the concept, but I just thought it could have been executed maybe a little bit more. And I did give it 4 stars. So yeah, I still enjoyed it. I just wish there was a little bit more of the tarot aspect. I think it's because it's dark academia, but I don't want to like completely rule out that kind of genre, because I do like reading about it. But maybe I just haven't found the right one for me. So that was the Cloisters. Next, we have got my first DNF of the month, and it was The Wolf Den. And this was my least favourite genre plot prompt. So this is The Wolf Den by Elodie Harper, and I unfortunately DNF'd like at least before 100 pages, I think it was. Not what I expected at all. The main topic in this book is about Greek women working in a brothel, and I just was not expecting that. I would check this book for trigger warnings, because there's a lot of sexual violence, abuse, like physical abuse, domestic abuse, demeaning women, and it was just too much for me. I couldn't carry on because of how, obviously it's meant to be powerful, but yeah, it was really like making me like kind of feel a bit upset, and like I could feel myself struggling to read it because it was so strong. So yeah, unfortunately, I am DNFing this. Well, I have DNF'd it because I didn't read it. So yeah, I think there is 2 other books that go with it, but I won't be carrying on with this. So this will be going in my kind of charity shop pile. I do feel bad because somebody actually book phoned me this when I had it on my wish list, but I'm not going to carry on with something that I feel like upset like reading. So unfortunately, if you have read it, let me know what you think, but I personally couldn't carry on with it. So that's that. Next we have Song of Achilles, which was the replacement for The Wolf Den, and this version, I haven't seen this version cover-wise much on social media, so I think this is one of the older ones. I did pick it up in a charity shop. Yeah, this was my replacement for The Wolf Den, because I wanted to still get that prompt done, because I wanted the points. So this is by Madeline Miller, and it took me 3 days to read, and yeah, I found it overall a good read. It hasn't changed my mind on this genre though. I just haven't found the right book, I think, to sway me on this genre. I would call it like Greek historical genre. And yeah, so I loved the relationship between the 2 main characters, which are Patroclus and Achilles. You find out they eventually get into a a gay relationship, and yeah, it was lovely to see how their relationship growed from teenagers to grown men. So I really enjoyed that. Towards the end, I didn't actually like Achilles. He gave me this like pretentious, kind of didn't really care attitude. He wasn't putting the needs of the people that he was leading before anyone else. Like, he wasn't giving the crap, basically. And yeah, I didn't like him in the end. So I suppose that's a good thing that my view changed. But overall, as I said, it hasn't changed my view on this genre, this book personally. But I gave it 3.5 stars. So I did enjoy it. It was just an overall good read. Wasn't too long, just over 300 and something pages. So yeah, I read Song of Achilles. Next, I read the audiobook The Shadow Glass, which is the last in the trilogy of the Bone Witch trilogy, which I started at the beginning of the year, by Rin Shupeko. So it was just the last book in the trilogy, and I really just wanted to get through it and listen to it and see how the trilogy ends. So I thought it had a brilliant ending to this trilogy. Again, it gave you the whole going on a journey with all the characters, and I really enjoyed the diversity of the characters as well. So that really was something that I found as the main thing that I really enjoyed. So there was a big twist at the end as well, which I wasn't expecting, which actually caught me off guard. Also, the narrators are the same narrators that read the other 2 books, but in this 3rd book, the female narrator kept saying one of the main characters' names in a different way to how she said it in the 1st book, which was slightly annoying, but I just got used to it in the end. But it was just it was a different pronunciation to how she pronounced the same name in the first 2 books, so I didn't understand that. And she actually was put across some of how Tia was reacting like quite well. Like, at one point there's a bit in the book, she's like putting across obviously that Tia is really emotional and crying because of a certain situation, and the narrator did that so strongly that it actually pulled at my heartstrings and what made me nearly cry. So yeah, that was really, really good. I really did enjoy that trilogy. So if you are looking for kind of a darker witch themed book, then I would recommend the Bone Witch trilogy, because it's, as I said, it's got all different, a diverse amount of characters in it, massive journey kind of plot, and yeah, it was just a different take on a witch book, I think. And I gave it 4 stars like all the other ones. So yeah. My next book is, if I can find it, this one, The Marlowe Murder Club. This was my reading prompt for a book that uses brain power, and it actually did. So I'm glad I chose this as my book that uses brain power prompt. I finished this in 2 days. And I gave it 4 stars, and this caught me off guard. I didn't know if I was going to like it as much as I thought I would. It was really quirky. The main character is Judith, and she's 77, and she's just like a typical like old lady. But she is quite quirky. She'll go, she lives like near the Thames, and she goes swimming in the Thames and things like that. But yeah, she's really quirky, really funny. And a couple of the other characters that you meet along the way that join Judith on her journey are also quirky in their own way as well. Oh yeah, because of the whole like story of the book, the murder and them investigating the murder and things like that, it reminded me of the film Hot Fuzz, because it's in like a small town, The police didn't really do a lot until later on, and obviously the ladies are trying to investigate and solve the murder themselves. And it just gave me the vibe of Hot Fuzz, the film, if you've ever seen it. And I haven't read a book in a little while that's made me actually laugh. Like, some of the things the characters said in this book actually made me laugh out loud, which is obviously really good because he's written it in such a way that actually made me laugh. I am going to get the second one. It's only coming out in hardback at the moment, but I would like it to be in paperback so it matches this one. But yeah, really, really enjoyed this, and it surprised me. I only gave it 4 stars, but I don't know why I didn't give it 5. Yeah, it really surprised me and caught me off guard. So I would highly recommend, if you do like kind of murder mysteries but with like a quirky element to it, I would really recommend. Next, we have the first of my Mina Lima editions. So my prompt for a book by a memorable author, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, but obviously I read the Mina Lima editions. Obviously these are illustrated. Let's just go to this one, for example. Obviously this is the Gryffindor portrait of the fat lady. As I said, these are by Mina Lima, so the graphic designers. These are absolutely beautiful. Some of the illustrations are interactive, like, try not to break it. This one, for example, opens out. It's so amazing. And yeah, I would highly recommend, if you are a Harry Potter fan and you haven't got it, picking up this one. Still love it as much as I did as a child. Obviously this edition is absolutely stunning, obviously purely for the illustrations and the interactive elements. And it's crazy to think, when you reread these, how much they changed from the book to the films, because some of the dialogue in here is completely different to the film, or they haven't used it. So yeah, it's really, really strange when you reread it. So that was Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Gave it 5 stars, obviously. Next is God Killer, which is a book with a deadly title. And this was quite short. I finished it in 2 days. It's by Hannah Kaner. And yeah, I didn't know what to expect of this, but I did absolutely love how she's written the disability diversity in this book, because I think every character that you meet that is one of the main characters has some sort of disability. For example, Kissin becomes one of her legs gets amputated right at the beginning. So she's essentially got a prosthetic leg. There is another person who is essentially deaf, so she uses like their version of sign language. Someone is represented to have anxiety and mental health issues. And yeah, I really, really love that, because I haven't seen that in a book before. So that's something really, really positive that I loved about this. I did feel the last 20% of the book was a little bit rushed. There was kind of something big that happens towards the end, but it felt like I was just reading like the last part was like just like went quite quickly. So that was the only downside that I've put down. I enjoyed the story overall. I just wish there was a little bit more action spread between the book, because I felt like all the action was towards the end of the book. There was like little teeny snippets like here and there, but mainly the bulk of the action is towards the end of the book. I think someone did say that there is a second one coming out with it, but again, it won't be for a while. It's a good short fantasy book, so if you are looking to dip your toe into fantasy, I would recommend, because it's a good one to get started with, because it's less than 300 pages, I believe. is 288 pages, so very, very short for a fantasy book. It just got straight to the story, not much world building, and yeah, I would recommend, and I did give it 4 stars. Next we have A Witch in Time. I was meant to use this for a different prompt, but I used it for a book that's been lost in time, which is meant to be about a book that you've left on your TBR for a while. But I think I just picked this up purely because it's got the word time in it. So I did kind of mess up my prompts, but I did go to do something else for the prompts that I missed. So yeah, but back to this one, A Witch in Time by Constance Sayers. I finished it in 3 days. And overall I have given it 3.5 stars because I enjoyed the whole concept of the plot and the story. We start with Helen, who is in 2012, the timeline, and it goes back in time from there. So you essentially are going through 3 other time periods of different women who relate to Helen, and it all makes sense if you read it. But yeah, it kind of got a bit repetitive because some of the timelines kept coming forward and backwards and kept repeating the same things about the timelines. So that was one of the reasons that I rated it slightly lower. But I did enjoy the uniqueness of it. There is other things like devils and that kind of side of magic related to it as well. And yeah, so that was my main point, that it just kind of got a bit repetitive, hence why I put it down 3.5 stars. But I did enjoy it. Don't think I'll read it again because obviously I know the twists and things like that now. But I would recommend it if you do love witchy books and just a general, like, would you call it fantasy? I'd say it's maybe fantasy. But it's a good witchy book, and it's a good one for obviously going through different time periods and learning new stuff about the characters. So yeah, I'd recommend, and I gave it 3.5 stars. So next, don't need to talk about this too much. My second Millennium edition of Harry Potter and its Chamber of Secrets. 5 stars. Not going to give these any less. Absolutely loved it, and I got this not for Christmas last year but the year before, because I knew if I asked Adam for it he wouldn't know anything about it, so I bought it from me to me. And I absolutely loved it. So I hadn't actually read through this one and seen the illustrations and things like that. Just trying to find something. For example, this one is quite fiddly, but it opens up here and opens out. So very, very interactive. So obviously these are probably not the best ones for children. Obviously if you are supervising, then yeah. But yeah, absolutely stunning. I could not wait for Prisoner of Azkaban to come out in October. And again, relating to changing the dialogue for the films and stuff, it's weird how much they've changed from the book to the films, and things that they've missed out. But still, obviously I can't put everything from the book in the film. But yeah, so that was Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Right, so next one is one of my short books, because I had a prompt that said to read a book faster than the speed of light. So read a 250-page book or less within 10 hours. I did 2. So this was the first one. It's The Vanishing Triangle by Claire McGowan. And it took me 2 days in total, but I read it within 3 hours and 32 minutes. It is only less than 180 pages, I think. Yeah, 173. So, yeah, but I didn't like rush through it because this is a more of a crime investigative journalism type book. So yeah, I just read it at a bit of a slower pace because I needed to read and learn about this. So it's The Murdered Women in Ireland Forgot. So it's kind of how women had been treated in the 1990s, and women that had been murdered, but the cases hadn't been solved. So it was kind of more of a learning book than like reading for pleasure, but I still don't mind that. So yeah, that was my first one, and I did enjoy it. I gave it 4 stars because it was very insightful, as in making me learn something new about a complete different country and a time period that was around my time, but obviously I wouldn't have known about it because I was a child. So yeah, I would recommend if you're looking for something to read and learn about. My second book that I read within 10 hours is going back on my ACOTAR journey. So this is A Court of Frost and Starlight, and I managed to finish this in over a day, but time-wise I think I finished it in around 4 hours, 4 hours and 42 minutes I think it was. So this is 233 pages, this was. And I gave it 3.5 stars. I would say this is probably the weakest book in the ACOTAR series so far, in my opinion. I enjoyed it overall, but there wasn't much going on. It wasn't as strong as the other books that I've read in the series. Yeah, there just wasn't much going on. It's kind of, I understand why people call it the filler book in the series, because it's just a gap in between, obviously, the next book. Yeah, there's a couple of bits that made me laugh because they're celebrating like the solstice, and it's kind of like their Christmas, so they got gifts for each other and things like that. And it did make me chuckle the way they reacted to like gifts and celebrating things and bits and bobs. So that did make me chuckle. But yeah, there wasn't really a lot going on in this, so I can understand why I got through it so quickly and why people call it the filler book of the series. But I am going to wait a little while to read A Court of Silver Flames because I do not want this series to end yet. So I don't know when I'll read that, but eventually I will. So that was that one. My next book is my second book, which I DNF'd, which was meant to replace the prompt that I messed up on. But when I worked out the points, I already had enough to go into the unspeakable room, but I didn't have the time in the month. I DNF'd All the Murmuring Bones by A.G. Slater. I think I got to about 50, 60 pages, and it just wasn't giving me any vibes at all. I felt that it starts off with the backstory about the child that's left of the family, and I felt the backstory was a bit too long and it was too long-winded, so it was kind of making me like a bit like, do I have to like continuously read about that? Obviously I could have waited and tried to push out to 100 pages, but I really wasn't getting any vibes from it at all, which is a shame because I do like sea-related magical creatures and things like that, but I just had no vibes with this whatsoever. But if you have read it and enjoyed it, let me know your thoughts on it, but unfortunately it wasn't for me, and it will be going to a charity shop. Obviously it's still been in good condition because I haven't really got into it, so yeah, unfortunately that was my second DNF of the month. So the next books I'm going to talk about are all on my Kindle, and this is a mini book series. I finished 4 of the 5 books this month, because all of them are less than 200 pages. So yeah, I've flown through this, and it's called the Mindfuck series. So yeah, it's a very dark mini series of books. It's by St. Abbey. As I said, I've read books 1 to 4, and I would very heavily advise checking trigger warnings reading this book, because it is a very dark subject. It's about a woman called Lana, and she's essentially a murderer. And she murders men for a particular reason, and you find out why and the backstory into why she has murdered men. But they are like men that have done horrible things, like raped people or been violent to women, and you find out another reason relating to her and her family, why she is trying to get kind of justice in a way, because she feels like she hasn't had that kind of justice for herself and her brother, who unfortunately died. Yeah, so that's the kind of dark aspects that you would be seeing throughout this book, through every single one. So there's quite graphic detail in how she murders the people. And yeah, so I would heavily advise checking this. This is probably one of the darkest books I've read this year. But I'm not like feeling triggered, or it's not making me feel sick or disgusted or anything like that, because it's probably sounds weird, but I actually agree with why Lana's been murdering these men, because obviously it's violence against women and doing stuff to women that shouldn't be done. So yeah, that's the kind of whole gist of the book. She she meets an FBI agent at a coffee shop called Logan, and they eventually start dating and eventually get into a relationship, and he's essentially trying to find out who's murdering these men, but he doesn't know it's her. So yeah, it's kind of like a cat and mouse kind of thing, but I'm really enjoying it. I didn't think I would, weirdly, but it's really kind of, I'm loving the whole unhinged, getting justice for women kind of vibe that Lana has. And yeah, I do like how much Logan really calms Lana down and keeps her grounded. I've just got to a part of the book that is completely changing the whole relationship of Lana and Logan. I won't go into any more detail because I'm literally about to go into the last book, which is book 5. And yeah, it ended on quite a big kind of cliffhanger. So I'm looking forward to reading the last book and talking about that more. I will say in April, because I don't want to rush getting through it just to include it in this one. So as I said, it's got very graphic violence in it. So I'm going to repeatedly say this. Please check trigger warnings in this book. It's on Kindle. You can get it in physical form, so all 5 books in one. But it's within my Kindle Unlimited subscription, so that's why I've been able to read them so quickly. I have given this series 5 stars so far, because I am really enjoying the kind of dark vibe of it all. I'm not a crazy person, don't worry. But it's kind of just the whole unhinged justice for women kind of vibe, and it's just been something completely different. I haven't read anything like this before, so yeah, really, really enjoying it. So that is the last of the Kindle books. My last physical book is My Killer Vacation, which is my prompt for the Love Room in my reading challenge. The Kindle books that I've read this month were just extra books on top. So yeah, that is that. So My Calification is my first book by Tessa Bailey. I picked this up in Aldi actually. They had a little like book stand for a few of like the Book Talk books, and this is the one that I picked up. So I chose this because it was meant to be like a spicy romance. I read it in 2 days. Overall, I did enjoy the story because it did have some interesting parts, but I felt the relationship between Taylor and Miles was too intense. They were only there for like a week, I swear. So the relationship got too intense too quickly. I felt it was very unrealistic, the relationship between the two of them. And the spiciness of the book I found a bit cringy. Like some of the stuff that Miles would be saying about Taylor or wanting to do to Taylor, I just found too cringy. Too cringy. I was just like cringing inside, like, no, you would not say that to a woman in real life. So yeah, that's why I gave it 3 stars. So I probably won't read this again. I will probably put it in my charity shop pile. So yeah, that is what I ended March on. So I believe, let me just do a quick count of my total of my books. So I've just done a quick tally up of my books, and I've actually read 14 books this month. I think that's only because of the Flux series. Sorry, my watch is buzzing. So yeah, 14 books this month. That is a personal best for me. And I thoroughly enjoyed this reading challenge. So my favourite books of the month were the Mindfuck series that I'm reading on my Kindle. Just absolutely loving it. And my favourite physical book was actually the Marlowe Murder Club. So it really surprised me, and I really do want to read the second book because it carries on. And yeah, it's one of the first books that's made me actually laugh in a while. And yeah, so that was my favourite physical book of the month, and I chose it because, as I said, it surprised me. It completely threw me. I did not expect this book to be like this. So yeah, really enjoyed that. My least favourite book, you can probably guess, was My Killer Vacation. I just found it too cringy. This is why I don't read romance books very often, because I always find it too cheesy and cringy and not realistic at all. The only romance books that I've read which I haven't felt that are cringy are romances in fantasy books, or there was a couple of books I read by Sarah Morgan at Christmas time, which were kind of contemporary romance-esque, which I found really good. Actually, there was one summer book that I read in the summer, which I really enjoyed and didn't find cringy and really loved. So I'm hoping to get some more of her books, because I think she's going to be my like contemporary romance type of author to read. But I have got 2 more books by Tess Bailey, which I'm saving for the summer, because it says one of them is called It Happened One Summer. So I'm hoping they're not as cringy as this. Fingers crossed. So that was March 2023 reading wrap up, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a big thumbs up. If you're brand new to my channel, hello and welcome. Please hit that subscribe button. I'm trying my hardest to get to 1,000 subscribers, and I would love for you to stick around for the journey. If you are a reader, let me know what you've been reading this month. I do love to get book recommendations. And yeah, so I will speak to you next month for April's reading. Don't know how that's going to go, because we've got quite a busy month in April. But I'm still going to read, because I do love to read, and it gives me joy. So take care, and I'll speak to you very soon in the next one. Bye!